Hi everyone and welcome to a brand new studio vlog. This is one I've been really excited to share with you because this week I'll be taking you behind the scenes of exhibiting at my 5th trade show in 13 months, which is Spring Fair, which took place at the NEC in February. If you've not seen one of my vlogs before, my name is Emma and I run Sunshine Lane, which is all about crafting cards, stationery and gifts that spread positivity and encourage self-care. And I love sharing behind the scenes of my business so that I can share a bit of my journey with you and hopefully connect with other small business owners that are doing similar things. So this is me and my mum setting up my trade show stand. My mum Alison works with me 2 days a week at Sunshine Lane and she comes to all my shows with me. She is my #1 fan, my #1 employee, #1 mum. She is #1 everything. And here we are putting it all together. We launched greeting cards in January and we had 60 designs. So we hung these all up on the wall at this show. But once it's all set up, I will take you through how the stand looks and how we chose to set things up this time because we've done things a little bit differently. So this is our lovely stand. This is how it turned out in the end and it's lovely and bright and colourful. We have this new unit we built at the front this time. This is my mum's shadow. Say hello. And we decided to just have it as a little counter for us. It's also hiding a lot of the mess, which is always a problem, so I'll show you that. And then we decided not to have on display like every single gift that we do, and because we're in the greetings section, just focus more on the cards. So I will show you around. So at the front, on one of my collapsible units, we've got pins and pocket hearts like we normally do because they always attract attention and they're really popular items. And then behind here on the thinner wall, we've got stationery. So I've got my notepads up on the wall and then journals and washi down here. What's happened here? Just fix that. So I've got my washi board that I made for top drawer. And then I've got my bookish to-do pad, reading journal, well-being journal, reflective journal, and my bullet journal. And then the notepads that aren't quite as heavy on the wall because we did lose a journal overnight, so we had to do a rejig. And then I've got my gift of the year shortlisted sign up here because you've got to promote these things. So if you haven't seen, I've been shortlisted for gift of the year in the health, wellbeing and accessible gifts category. And it's this product, my Thoughts versus Facts notepad, which is a popular product and one of my favorite products because I just love how it's so functional in terms of challenging negative thoughts. So the judging is actually at this show. So we'll find out, I don't know which day, if I've won in that category or not, but some stiff competition. And then we have all the cards. So the lights are making this go very funny, but we've got the wildflower collection of cards, and then we've got the retro and the quote cards, and then we've got the punny cards all down this wall here. Just fix that one. And then we decided to make some similar rails and actually hang up the pins and pocket hearts in another location just to try and get people's eyes on them. But what I hadn't really considered was that depending where the pin is on the card and the shape of it, they don't hang straight like a card would, like the weight goes off one way or another. So it's not quite as aesthetically pleasing as I would have liked, but we'll titivate it. And then up here we have art prints up at the top. And then just a little seating area for catching up on orders and emails and stuff. And then right in the middle, my Sunshine Lane sign and positivity in every creation. And then I made this big sign which has examples of other products I do that aren't with me, which says ask us about our other stationery and gift products, so people can kind of see what we do that's not here on the stand. But then also on our little unit at the front, we have got some examples of things. So I've got an art print framed, I've got a tumbler and mug, forgot to bring a straw for the tumbler, so that's a lesson learned. I made this little gift of the year shortlisted stand for my notepad with my X tool, which turned out really cool, I think. It's like this, so it's supported at the back. And then this is just a little lamp from Dunelm. I am worried people are going to think I sell them. And then I've got all of my art prints people can flick through, and my pouch, the bookish pouch. And then I'll show you around the back. So we have all our stuff under here, and we said we might build a curtain, but people can't really see, to be honest, round the side. So we have all our extra supplies in here, line sheets, postcards, anything we want to give to customers, supplies of snacks. We've got spare products because if there is some other type of product people want to see, we did bring them in a box, the ones that aren't on display, as well as some example tote bags at the end because we haven't put our tote bag wall up this time. And then just our bags and stuff because it's usually quite hard to hide all this stuff. And then I will show you how this collapses down at some point in the video, but basically this top comes off and these sides fold in, which means it can go completely flat in the back of the car, which is really, really handy. It means we're still managing to do it in the back of a car rather than hire a van. So day one was spent catching up with existing stockists, making lots of new connections, and we also attended a couple of talks that I will talk about more later in the video. Hi everyone, it is the end of day one and I just wanted to check in and say how things were going. You might... my mirror's fallen off. You might have to forgive the terrible lighting in this video. The lighting at Spring Fair is really weird. I'm looking up because my mum stood there. It's really weird, and every time I'm trying to take photos, it's just really hard to balance, like there's loads of shadows and then pockets of harsh light, and in this apartment we're staying in it feels like a bit of a cave. But anyway, it's been a good day. We're very, very tired, but it has been a really good day one. I felt like there was a really good buzz about the place, and like whereas at previous shows it will take quite a while in the morning for people to trickle through and like get to your stand if you're not right by an entrance, there were people around quite quickly, and the same, it goes on till 6 p.m. and I kind of thought like who's still going to be there then, but people were making full use of the day. It's just a very big show. There's a lot for people to get around, so I did kind of sense from some of the buyers like this sense of panic and like rush that I've seen you and I really like you, but I also need to get round everywhere. Did you think that? She's nodding. Yeah. But we met some lovely people that we'd not met before. We also saw some people again that are current stockists or that met us at previous shows and they wanted to come and say hello, which was lovely. I had a stockist come, they're waiting for their order, and they spotted my washi display and said, is it too late to add some of them on the order? So that was a lovely bonus that we weren't necessarily expecting. And we've had some really good feedback about the cards today. I did. We need to catch up on like what we both kind of spoke about when we were each on the stand. But I had some lovely feedback on the cards. And one person said, which I don't know if it's a bit of a backhanded compliment, that on a lot of like the punny cards and stuff, that the sayings have been done. The sayings aren't necessarily original, but the way that I'd done them was really good and it was different, and they were interested like because of that, because it was kind of a different take on presenting that. So, and I think that's kind of fair enough, because with a lot of kind of affirmations and sayings and phrases, like who is going to suddenly discover a completely unique way of saying that they're thinking of someone? It's very hard, but I suppose it's how you put that together. And I guess the only other thing is we're still in two minds about whether it's the best thing to not put everything on display, because I think it's a lot better and it's a lot more cohesive. It's just a lot clearer to explain what we do and feature the best sellers, but also have examples of the other products like I showed you this morning. But then a couple of people said, we saw you before and you had more products before, and we were like, oh. And also we had a bookshop And I said, actually, it was quite handy at Top Drawer having the whole bookish range together, that we could just say here, even though some of those products are duplicated elsewhere on the stand, it's almost easier to visualize like buying that collection. So we said in the morning we might have a bit of a swap round, and on the counter at the front put a little bookish display together, because I think there are a lot of bookshops that might attract, whereas if they just see one thing, then they might think, oh well, I wouldn't reach them in a order. But actually we've got loads of stuff, it's just kind of scattered. So that's our thoughts from day one, but we kind of need to regroup and have a think. But we're back at the accommodation. We were about to cook some dinner, but Mum forgot one of the main ingredients, and the Airbnb we're in doesn't have anything you can put in the oven, even though they have an oven. Like, they don't have any dishes or anything you can put in the oven. Or cooking utensils, which Mum's been going on about all day. I'm sick of hearing about it. So we've ordered a takeaway, and I think it's on its way. So we'll disappear, it's heading my way, and we'll catch up in the morning. So day 2, and we went over to see the gift of the year area. They had all of the products that were shortlisted on display in all the different categories that there were, and we wanted to go over and check out everybody's products, but mainly to see ours in the health, wellbeing and accessible gifts area. Like I said, our thoughts versus facts notepad had been shortlisted. But I always like coming and visiting this area at a show anyway, to see what the judges have shortlisted, and the judges are made up of a lot of kind of important industry people and shop owners, buyers, that kind of thing. And so it's good to know kind of what they're shortlisting, the types of things that are popular and that are getting the judges' attention, and pick up any trends and inspiration and that kind of thing. It's also a really good place to look and get inspiration for people's presents, which totally isn't the point, but on a personal note, I always find really interesting and kind of check out new things you might not have seen before and discover new brands. And this is the category we were shortlisted in, so health and wellbeing and accessible gifts. And there were a whole range of different types of products, whether it be things to help with your mind, things to help with your body, things to help you in all kinds of different ways. And it was lovely to see my notepads in amongst those shortlisted items on the display. Now, I said earlier in the video that I thought that the judging happened at the show, which is very true, but I didn't realise that wasn't the final judging. So the day this video is released, I'll actually be finding out if I made the finalists, which is the top 6 in each category. And then the winners are announced at an awards ceremony in May. So keep your fingers crossed. This is how we rejigged the front counter to put a display of all our bookish collection together. We've kind of got a sample of everything in the collection together, so that people who are interested in this range can kind of visualize it all together. So it's the last day of the show, and it's always a little bit quieter on the last day. So I thought I would go for a bit more of an explore that I've not been on previous days, go to some different halls and just kind of soak up what other people are doing, get inspiration. I always think like it's really inspiring creatively to walk around a trade show, to just be inspired and notice trends, different colours, different patterns, different products. So I'm really looking forward to it. I will talk more about the show when I get back, but we have had a really, really good show. It's been great and made some great connections with people. And I think I'm going to do it again next year. So that's all very exciting. And Al's just beavering away in the corner, or she's texting, I'm not quite sure. I hope she's following up on her lead, but she might just be replying to a text. Who knows? She's going to hate me when she watches this. So let's go for our little wander. everyone, we are back from the show and it's been a couple of days. I am struggling, I'm not gonna lie. I really find these shows take it out of me. I think they take it out of everyone, but not to be competitive, but also having fibromyalgia and being autistic, I do find it really difficult. I've taken a couple of days just to do some low-key jobs, spend time with family, try and do a bit of rest and recovery. My little girl's having a nap, so I thought I would catch up with you on how things have been and how the show was. I did meet up with my mum yesterday, who obviously came to the show with me, and we had a bit of a chat about how we felt it went, reflected on it, thought about what we would do differently, what might be useful for people to know. So I've included her thoughts in here as well. But overall, I think the show went really well for us and it was definitely worthwhile to do. I think what I'm realising with trade shows, because this is my 5th now that I've done in 13 months, is that trade shows are a big part about brand recognition and getting your brand out there, getting people to start to recognise you more, recognise your name, your branding as a whole, what you're about. And I think we're starting to see that now. People are recognising us, or we're standing out more to people and they're taking notice, whereas it was kind of slowly in the beginning. And I think part of that is just due to persistence and keep turning up, and people realise that you're here to stay, you're not going anywhere, you're not going to try a trade show and then go bust. And then I think part of it is about the lessons we've learned along the way and how we've tweaked things over time, depending on our experience at each show and what we've taken from that. So I think it's probably 50-50, but it is a very expensive marketing exercise. I had a really good chat with the people opposite me at a company called Crumble & Core, and they are trade show pros. They've been doing it for a very long time. I had a chat with them and I was saying that I've made a lot of good connections at this show that weren't necessarily customers, but like potential suppliers, people I could get advice from for different things, like loads of good connections. The lady said to me, I think her name was Jill, that for her, she had to shift her mindset around it in the beginning and realise that it's 50-50, building your customer base and getting orders, but also then 50% networking, that horrible word, making contacts in the industry and just getting your name out there a bit more. So with that in mind, I feel like it was a successful show, and it was just interesting to get that advice from somebody and think how that applies to us and recognise where we are in that journey, because they've been doing this for years and years. But yeah, I did manage to get some other good contacts for the future, and like I said, potential suppliers for things that I'd be able to actually see the quality of their products at the show, and they had samples or they could send me samples and so on. So that was really great. This is by far the biggest show out of the trade shows I've done. So I've done Top Drawer twice, I've done Home and Gift, Autumn Fair, and now Spring Fair. And obviously Autumn and Spring are like sister shows to each other, but Autumn Fair is so much smaller compared to Spring Fair. Spring Fair is a big beast. It's 8 halls, I think, at the NEC. It was huge. I didn't get around it all. There were some halls I didn't go in to have a look. And I guess for buyers, it's the same. Although obviously not all the different halls would be applicable to every business. But I will say that I was the most nervous before this show because of that. I always feel like a small fish in a big pond, but this time especially, and I just thought, what if people don't even find me? Because I've just got this little stand on a corner, and then there's this huge hall, and some people have got all this floor space and all these custom built exhibition stands and like all these wonderful attractions. And then there's like little old me in the corner, and my stand was 3 times of the first one I had. So I had 6 square meters, whereas last January I had 2 square meters. So I'm like getting a bit more land on each show, but I was worried that with a bigger show comes more competition. Obviously, it attracts more buyers, and there was definitely lots of different types of businesses there, a wide audience, and that was great in terms of getting my products and my messaging out to a wider audience. But yeah, then you've got the issue of more stands for those buyers to get round. They can feel a little bit rushed and just want to grab information rather than have a chat with you. So you got to weigh that up. Obviously, you do get that at every show anyway. And then the last day was quiet, which has been the trend with all the other trade shows I've done. So this is the longest trade show I've done. This was 4 days, actually open to the public, or 3, although maybe Home and Gift was 4, but it was also the longest in terms of hours. So it was 9 till 6 every day, apart from the last day, it ended at 4. But at least having that extra day meant we got 3 busy days and then 1 quiet day instead of 2 busy days and 1 quiet day. So I just basically saved my own wandering and chatting with other people until the last day, so that I was on the stand at the busier times, because I've learnt from that in the past. So then we weren't bored. On the last day, it went quite quick. Okay, so our stand setup. I was really pleased how this came together. So my mum had an idea before this show. We only just did top drawer 3 weeks before. And she said something she had noticed was we basically took everything we sell, as well as all the 60 new greeting card designs that we launched at Top Drawer. And she said she noticed that it was maybe a bit overwhelming for buyers. And one of the first things they would notice was we had one whole wall just filled with tote bags. And they would glance at that because they're in a rush and think, no, that's not what we want, and walk away and miss the other smaller items, the greetings cards, the pins and pocket hearts, like all the things that are popular, the stationery, because there was just so much going on. So we decided to trial paring it back and just taking the greetings cards, the stationery, the pins and pocket hearts, and then we had a few examples of other gifts dotted around, and then a giant sign with examples on saying ask us about our other stationery and gifts. And then we also had samples of everything if people wanted to see something specific, but they were tucked away. They were all in the catalogue. So it was much more pared back, easier for people to see. There was also more space on the stand. It didn't feel crowded and your eyes just didn't know where to look. And I think it worked really well. So we just focused on what tends to be our main sellers at the show, but then talked to people about the other products. I did make a change on the second day. You will have seen that the first night I reflected that we'd had a bookshop come to us, and at Top Drawer I had collections together of everything we sell in their collections. So like the Bookish collection, the Wildflower collection. And as soon as a bookshop came over, I could say, you might want a wider variety of gifts in there anyway, but here is a completely themed bookish range that you might like. And they could picture it in the store. I wasn't rifling around in boxes to get the samples. So we decided to just rejig our little table at the front and have a bookish collection out there. And then we did notice we had more bookshops stopping, which was good. So that was a good little reflection. I'm really liking how it looks with the vinyl. So if you didn't see me talking about this in my vlog a few weeks ago where I talked about Top Drawer, I will link it below. We had these reusable vinyl panels made where you basically just roll them up and they could fit in the back of the car, and then you stick them to the wall with double-sided Velcro, and then you can just tear them down. And nothing we were displaying on them was too heavy, so everything we just put up with like double-sided tape, command strips, that kind of thing, a little bit of double-sided Velcro, and then pulled it all off again. And so far so good, but I think it really transforms the stand, and it tells you straight away that Sunshine Lane is all about colour and fun and bright and positive vibes, which people weren't getting from my original stand. And I think probably because that's a lesson I've learned through doing the trade shows and getting feedback like your brand messaging is a bit inconsistent. You're saying you're all about colour and fun, but then you're presenting the products in a way that just looks really stark and minimal, then it's disjointed. And I'm not saying everyone has to have a bright, colourful stand, but it depends what your vibe is of your business, and does the whole thing represent that, is something that I've taken away from the feedback I've had about my stands. And just being brave enough to say to people, can you give me honest feedback, and bracing myself and listening to it and not taking it as criticism, just taking it as constructive, because it's hard when you work really hard on something. Like I worked really hard on those original stands and figuring out what I was going to do. And so to hear that not such glowing feedback, it stings a little bit, but you need to hear it and take it in and think, okay, how can I make this feel like my brand? So when someone steps on the stand, they've left those other businesses and now they're in this little world of what we do. And I think you can't have a brand like Sunshine Lane and then have it all like bleh, drab and boring. So yeah, I was really pleased with how it turned out. And my mum's partner made us this amazing fold-in table, which I've always wanted, like a little desk at the front that you can stand and do some work, talk to people, do orders, but also like just put little elements on it to display. But I've always tried to stick to things that will fit in the car for travel, because it's just much easier to get in and out than like queuing with all the vans and stuff. And hiring a van, driving a van, don't want to do that. So my mum had an idea that we could build something with hinged sides that would fold down flat in the van and also be a better way to hide all our stuff, because we normally have all the extra supplies. You've got your bags, your coats, your lunch, like all the things that people are giving to you, and you've got to put it somewhere where your stand just doesn't look a mess. But I don't want to be building whole cupboards and things. So we came up with this design. I didn't. Mum came up with this design and she spoke to her partner about it and he added his ideas on and then he built it. So this is what it looks like. I think it looks fab. We were able to have a nice display on the top that didn't feel too crowded. It wasn't rammed with products everywhere you looked. And then there was space underneath for us to hide all our stuff. We are thinking about just making a little curtain to go across. It's not that obvious, to be honest. It made it easier to just dip in and get catalogues and things for people, but it would make it look really tidy. And I think in future we'll get a tall stool to go behind there, because the normal stools we've got were too small and it was a bit short notice. So it was amazing because it just packs down flat, and then I just threw a blanket over it and then loaded everything else up on top, and it didn't take that much room in the car. And I just think it added something a bit different to the stand, more colour and fun, and I loved it. So we'll be taking that with us wherever we go. So this is how it works. It's got these two hinged sides, so you fold those out to the side, and then there are just these bars that go across to brace the sides and make it so that it can't open and close any further. But it also gives us a little shelf so we can tuck things underneath at the very bottom and then put things on top. The top just slots on and there are little stoppers on the top which make it so that it can't move around. We were careful not to lean on the back because with it only having 3 sides, we didn't want to put anything super heavy at the back and the top tip. There were a few people that leaned on it and we held our breath, but it worked really well. I don't know what we're calling it, our little reception desk contraption. Big thank you to Alan, big shout out. He actually came down to the show to have a look. We didn't get a picture, but it was really lovely for him to see all the things that he helped me build, like how it comes together on the stand when I say, Alan, I've got another job for you. Can you make me this? Can you make me that? That was an idea that we whipped together between the 2 shows. So thank you, Mum, for the excellent idea, and thank you, Alan, for bringing it to life. And thank you to my husband for painting it in the cold. It was very much a family effort. I did something, I'm sure. I don't know what I did on that, but yeah, brilliant. I liked that. I liked how everything came together, and like I said, that it wasn't too busy. Something I didn't like was, in the past, I've used rechargeable lights to cut down on the cost of the stand because I'm all about finding things that I can buy once and reuse instead of paying the trade shows every time for like lighting, a plug socket, etc. I don't want any of that. So it's all added money all the time when it's expensive enough. So I've been using these rechargeable lights, but at the last show we realised that now my stand is bigger, if the lights are too far back, they don't shine bright enough to hit the back wall. So we ended up having to purchase extra lights at Top Drawer on the day, which they always charge you more for. So that hurt my heart a lot, but I did it. We decided for Spring Fair we were just going to have to bite the bullet and order the lights. But at this show, this is the first time this has happened. I don't know if I'm going to have a clip of it, but there was almost like a white muslin fabric that they'd made a ceiling with on everyone's stands. And at all the other shows I've been to, that would just be open and the light would be able to come in, go out, like just disperse. So what was happening with the strip of lights that I purchased is that was like creating pockets of light and shadow instead of it being able to just, I don't know what the appropriate lighting words are, but for it to disperse in a way where it was more even, if that makes sense. It was really hard to film at the event. I apologise if the footage is colour and light wise not the best, but it made it really hard to film and take photographs because it would light up a specific area really bright and then you would have all these pockets of shadow. And I got up on a stool so many times and I'm twisting these lights and trying to put them in a direction where it's better, but ultimately that was a bit difficult having this kind of blocked ceiling, and I think more light would have come in from above, like from the main venue lights, if this wasn't blocking it. So I thought it was a little bit of a strange decision. Maybe they did it so that you'd have to buy their lights and not rely on the lights from the ceiling. I don't know. But yeah, that was unfortunate, but not the end of the world. But considering the lighting package was about £360 for 4 bulbs, I was a bit miffed that they weren't working as well as I hoped. So logistics wise, I feel like we're getting better at this, we're getting quicker at getting in and out, especially having a car. Sometimes they'll say, oh, if you've only got a small car, you can just queue separately and we'll let you park down here and you can just like load quicker than if you're in a queue with all the vans. And you booked a slot for your unloading time, so that was fine. I booked that in advance. We got there nice and early to give us more time, and we had our unloading slot and then moved the car. And unlike in London where there was then nowhere to park it, there's free parking at the NEC every day, so we thought, okay, this is going to be much better. The NEC is only about 45 minutes from us on a good run, but we have to go via the M6, which, if you don't know, is the worst motorway ever, and traffic is just like, I don't know when there isn't traffic or delays. Really, you need to be leaving double the time. We toyed with the idea of driving in and out, especially now I have my little girl, but actually I'd be leaving before she got up, I'd be getting back after she went to bed, and I'd be potentially adding on like an extra 2-3 hours a day on what are already very long days, because we don't finish working when we leave the trade show. We're normally following up with people on emails, we're thinking about things we want to tweak for the next day, we're making notes of things, we're trying our best to like rest and recuperate ready for the next day. So we decided to stay locally. The hotel prices were insane. Last time we stayed in a local Ibis that's like on the outskirts of the NEC like complex, and it was like a 5-minute drive in, and that was great. But this time when I checked the prices, it was nearly £1,000, and I was like, absolutely no way. And I don't know if it's the time of year with it being close to Valentine's Day, because the NEC hotels are also airport hotels for Birmingham Airport, that's affected the prices, but all the hotels were obscene prices. So we ended up getting an Airbnb about 10-15 minutes away, so it said, but with the traffic and then where we had to park and then walk to our hall, it was taking about 45 minutes anyway. I'm sure it's quicker than what we would have had trying to get in from home, but it was taking like half an hour to drive, plus then a 15-minute walk to our hall, because it was one of the halls that's not really near the parking. So yeah, the good thing is you can park for free, you haven't got to worry about that, and we had free parking at our accommodation, so that wasn't an additional cost, but it wasn't quite as time effective as we hoped. We were also exhausted when the show started because we decided to start setting up earlier on the Saturday so that we had more time and we could actually have breaks to eat, because previously we've just been rushing and living off fruit pastels, which is no way to live. So that's what we did. With our little sit downs, it took us like 8 hours to set up. That's not including unloading or getting there or anything. We left at 8 o'clock, came outside, and we had a flat tyre. Now this is the second trade show this has happened at, and I was so frustrated. So we had to wait in the cold for an hour for a mobile tyre fitter to come out, only for him to tell me that The same tyre that went at top drawer last year that was replaced with a supposedly new tyre wasn't a new tyre and had been ripped off, and I don't even know how this tyre passed the last MOT, to be honest. It was not in good shape, but too long ago for me to really do anything about that now. But anyway, £190 and an hour in the cold later, we were back on the road and we didn't get to our accommodation till gone 10 o'clock. Then we're like eating spaghetti bolognese at 10:30, thinking, oh my God, we need to like unpack and get ready, and this isn't how the day was supposed to go. Something I've thought about for future, so that we don't wake up exhausted on the first day, is with these shows that are a bit closer to home, especially that one, could we set up on the Friday and then have the Saturday off so that we just have a normal day and it's a bit more restful, and then we just go in on that first morning and then stay from then? I'm thinking maybe I'll trial that at a future one and see how that goes, to just be able to have a bit of a rest, because you got two disabled people trying to put all this stall up like we're a couple of big buff builders or something, and it's a lot on anybody's body, let alone ours, for us to wake up all fresh and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to greet people and talk about your products. I felt like I just needed 2 days lie down in the bath or something to get over the build. I'm thinking about trialling that in the future. And then loading at the end of the show, everybody started tearing down their stalls way earlier than they were meant to. And then you can't book at Spring Fair a loading time like you can with the unloading, and other shows like Top Drawer you have your slot for both, whereas with this one it's just first come first served. So I left like an hour and a quarter before the show ended to go down to the car and to start queuing to get in the car park, and I was about 10th in the queue, I think, but it still took ages to get through. It was about 4:20 when I finally parked up, and all these cars were there, and I was like, where have they possibly come from? I don't know. But we got in. Meanwhile, Mum had been boxing everything up, and then when I got in we were just like doing the vinyls and the displays and the final bits, and then ready to take out. Now they wouldn't let me bring in my trolley. It was so maddening. It was like, no trolleys on the floor until I get the okay. And we could see people coming in and out with trolleys, and we were like, what's that? That's a trolley. And she said, oh, some people brought them in this morning and put them on their stand. But then they were coming in and out with them. So I was like, why can't I just come in and out with mine? So I didn't really want to just sit there for an hour doing nothing, which meant we were doing a lot more lifting and like more trips to get to the car after 5 days of physical exertion already. So it just didn't feel very accessibility friendly, to be honest. And all the venue staff had like big trolleys and rolling cages and stuff all over the floor. So I was like, I didn't understand the distinction really. But yeah, it was a lot of backwards and forwards, and it meant that we took longer to get out when there was a big queue of cars out there waiting to load. We can do it in 3 trolley trips really, but we ended up spending ages walking backwards and forwards with boxes. That about did me in, and I was just ready to get home then, and then it was just ages getting off the car park. But we were on our way home. I managed to get home before my little girl went to bed. I was like, get things in the car, I gotta get home, I gotta get a hug before bedtime. And I managed to see her, and yeah, that was lovely. I did manage a video call with her while I was away as well, because I was missing her like mad. But I've got my 2 trade shows done now, which means there'll be no trips away for a while, because that's felt a little bit weird, having those 2 trips away when she's only been with us a few months. But you do got to do what you got to do. So something else I wanted to talk about was the talks that were on while I was there. And I always think it's really good to take advantage of all the opportunities that are on offer at a show while you are there. So if as somebody who can come in and be on your stand, even if it's only for a short while and you haven't got somebody with you the whole time, it's really useful to be able to free yourself up to go to certain things. So there was a big program of talks on at this show, and so I'd already had a pre-look through and had a look at talks that me or my mum might want to go to, and I thought we could divvy them up between us, which we did. I will say that the talks are hit and miss, but I used to be in events planning, and I think this is the case with talks in general. I don't think it's a problem with Spring Fair. I think when you book somebody to do a talk on something, it's always 50-50 how much they're going to give that talk, or are they going to give a sales pitch about whatever their product or service is. I think the best talks are like 80% actionable information that you can take away, and then 20% what they offer outside of the talk weaved in. And then if you've learned a lot from it, you're more likely to want to pay them for their product or service, to get more from them because you've been impressed with what you've gained. So the first talk I attended was from Rachel Henderson Studio, and it was about creating a visual brand identity that sells or is compelling, words to that effect. She was an amazing speaker. She said she'd not spoken at an event like that before, but she just gave so much great information. I need to go back through what I wrote down because I was like scribbling furiously, but I thought she was really great, and it made me then want to look into what else does she do, what advice does she give to brands. Whereas we went to a couple that were on AI, and I sent my mum to one that was like AI for non-techies, like beginners to AI. And then I went to one on how AI can boost your productivity, because who doesn't need that? But particularly the one my mum went to, she wasn't really told anything other than the history of AI. And then if you want to know how it can help you, here's a list of ways, but I'm not going to explain any unless you buy my course. It's always frustrating when that happens, because now you think, oh, I've given up this time. And also, it feels rude to leave like halfway through if you think that's going to be what's happening. But you don't know if it's going to turn around and they're going to start giving you nuggets of information. So yeah, we just prioritised the talks we went to and got from them what we could. But I will say, I think that is talks in general, that there's nothing Spring Fair or any show can do about it. The speakers are going to turn up and deliver what they're going to deliver on the day. So speaking of talks, you may or may not have seen that there was a bit of controversy around this Spring Fair because they'd invited Temu to talk, and this kind of blew up a bit on social media because they announced it quite late, like pretty much as the show was starting, or maybe it had already started in terms of announcing it on their social media. I think it had been on the programme, I'm not sure. And there was a big backlash against it. I will read you what the description of the talk said. Let me just find it. Can I find it? Here you go. Empowering independent retailers, the future of e-commerce and consumer experience. So Thomas Wintle from Temu was coming. It says, join us for an insightful discussion on the rise of Eastern marketplaces, where we focus in on Temu and its rapid growth in the West. We'll explore how Temu's innovative approach is reshaping e-commerce, offering local sellers unique opportunities to expand their reach, improve delivery times, and tap into a massive consumer base. Discover how this global shift can benefit your business and transform the future of online shopping. Now, this got a big backlash straight away, with many people commenting things like, is their innovative approach stealing from small businesses? Because I personally know lots of small businesses that have had their product designs stolen and replicated on Temu, and these sellers have made loads and loads of money off the back of other people's designs and then delivering an inferior quality product. It's maddening when you spend so much time and like you put your heart into what you create, and you try really hard to build a business for yourself, for someone to just rip off your design and shortcut it and make loads of money off the back of it. And then for that design, when it arrives with the customer, to be associated with a not so great quality product because they're not getting what we would deliver. So as you can imagine, the businesses that had spent thousands to be at this show were not impressed by the fact that Temu had been given a platform there to speak about their great approaches and how they've been able to expand so quickly when it feels like it's been off the back of theft of hardworking independent business owners. So there was a big social media backlash about it, at which point I think Spring Fair regrouped and decided that talk wasn't going to happen, and what they would do instead was open it up to a Q&A with Thomas Wintle, e-commerce leader at Temu, and they would just open the floor to questions to get a bit more of a discussion going, and so people could have their say. So obviously we couldn't both go. So I stayed on the stand and I sent my mum down there, and the general sentiment was that individual businesses were speaking up and talking about the thefts and the copyright infringement that's been happening and how Temu's business has been built off the back of that. And the answer from Temu seemed to very much be that we as individual business owners should upload all our designs onto their platform, even if not to sell, although they would like us to apparently, even if not to sell, for them to be able to then, when other products are run through their copyright filters, however that works, that it would pick up that it's a stolen design. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't got time to sit and upload every single product design, prove the copyright's mine, like for every single product I create, for a business on a platform that I don't even want to use to sell my products. And I just felt a little bit like, who are you to say that we should have to register all our designs with you? That's not an appropriate solution for you to just push it back on us. And that didn't go down very well, as you can imagine. So my mum actually managed to grab a few snippets of the questions and answers. So I'll play that for you now.
Hi, Thomas. You mentioned that you have stringent rules and processes. What does that entail, and how does that not stop or prevent people that are stealing the copyright of others? How are you working to prove that these people that are uploading other people's design copyright is allowed to happen?
So firstly on that, we need more of the independent sellers. And I appreciate this may take time, but uploading your trademark, your information, your designs to our brand portal gives us then the power to know that. It's a knowledge gap from our side. Until we have, the awareness of exactly what's happening, then we can take them down. So first step is cooperating in that sense. We also have AI-based and manual checks, and more investment is going into this now that more voices have been raised around such issues. So that means both looking at duplicate images, duplicate descriptions, any of the sort of naming conventions that are slightly tweaked to potentially, seem to be another brand. All of this is being built and is currently in place right now. So if your images are being used systematically, there are checks now that in many cases will take them down, flag them, suspend them until they can prove trademark ownership or copyright ownership of such things.
The thing is, trademark is very expensive. I'm trademarked as a brand, but a lot of people aren't. And you're saying that almost to protect ourselves, we have to join Temu. Many of us don't want to. We're quite happy with what we're doing. We have stockists in the UK. We're supporting the high street. So you're saying that to protect our brand, we have to sell and register our brand on Temu. That's not right.
Register the trademark, not necessarily to sell on a platform, but so long as we have the knowledge and a simple 2 clicks, a small form to fill in, we then have the teams available.
I'm Andy Meehan. I'm the volunteer president of the Greeting Card Association in America. And we're experiencing the same problem with Temu and similar platforms.
Yep.
In the greeting card category, it's not enough to talk about trademark, because it's the copyright of the design that's the problem. And I have picture and illustrative examples of literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of US GCA members who have been harmed by Temu. And you're a very brave man to come here, and I salute you for that. But when you're paying your mortgage, realize that you're paying your mortgage with the fruits of the labor of everybody sitting.
So I think the people that spoke up were super brave to do so, and I imagine it felt quite good to have their say to a person that was right there. But ultimately, it doesn't solve anything, and I don't understand the decision that was made to have them come and speak there. It does feel like a slap in the face to all the businesses that spent so much money, and I don't really understand how the representative just stand there and put it back on us like it's our responsibility. It just felt like a bit of a cop-out, a massive cop-out, to be honest. I know that he stuck around, he spoke to a lot of people. I know one person said they brought him over to their stand and pointed out all 50 designs that had been stolen before Christmas. And I know people were talking about having hundreds of designs stolen, even if it's just only one, like, it's not on. And I just don't know what they're going to do about it. I don't know what the future of it is. But if anything, I think it's brought more light to the issue that we've all known is going on, but perhaps has brought a bit more wider awareness to it. Now, someone else who was speaking at the show was Theo Paphitis. He does a lot with small businesses, and he was actually talking later that day, which I went to, and he had a lot to say about Temu. He said that he wished he knew that they were going to be there because he would have come earlier and asked some questions himself. But he had a lot to say about not just the copyright infringement, but one of the reasons that they've been able to grow so quickly is exploiting legal loopholes and not having to pay the same taxes we pay. There are regulatory issues, safety issues they don't have to comply with. There are all these loopholes that they're basically managing to find that means that we're not operating on a level playing field, and therefore how can we be expected to grow like Temu can? And I managed to capture a bit of what he had to say about Temu, so I'm going to put it in here now.
It went from Temu here today. Still here? No, they gone off with until 2 days. The fact that they turned up is amazing.
It is amazing.
It was like going to the pay pit. I mean, you are exactly the people that hurt it. But they are operating absolutely legally. They're not doing anything illegal in the fact that they ship stuff from China to here. But there's a lot of problems. And whilst they're absolutely operating legally in sending products into the UK without paying VAT and import duties, which in itself gives them an unfair advantage on you guys and the rest of the high street. By not paying tax, by not employing people, many people in the UK, by just sucking up a big swathe of the UK consumer market and not making the contribution back, the only outcome can be that will destroy our internal retail business because they're playing with an unfair advantage. They don't comply with regulations. The products they sell are not always the real McCoy. Thirdly, safety aspects. In fact, I quickly looked up something earlier and I'm going to have to bring out my phone. So, interesting. An investigation by the Toy Industry of Europe, TIE, the acronym, found that 18 out of 19 toys bought from Temu did not meet standards and presented a significant risk to children. That is unbelievable. Normally, if any of us sold products, would be shut down. An investigation conducted by CAS Industries found that 7 out of 7 randomly selected electrical products failed safety screening. Now, when you can be a cavalier like that and sell products into the UK market that doesn't comply, no regulations, no corporate governance in the UK, no corporation tax, no VAT, no import duties, then not only they pose a danger, actually, they pose the biggest danger they pose is the demise of our own high street and our own businesses. Now, it's now up to the government to legislate. And I do know for a fact that the government are looking at this.
So I did find his talk really inspiring. It was more about the wider issues that face small businesses and independent retailers. And it was good to hear somebody speaking up about that and the challenges that we face as a whole. And I hope if anything comes out of this whole Temu debacle at Spring Fair, it's that it does put more pressure on this issue being resolved. And I really liked what Theo said about he's all for competition, but the playing field has to be fair. If we have all these obstacles, whether they're legal, regulatory, tax-related, financial, whatever they might be, if we have all of those to overcome as small businesses, then so do these marketplaces over here. But we will watch this space if anything meaningful in terms of change actually comes of it, and obviously that never happens quick. So in the meantime, I guess it's back on us. And then one of the last things I wanted to talk about is how inspiring it was. Even if you just go and walk the show, you don't necessarily have to exhibit. I think going and visiting trade shows is such a great thing to do. From a creative standpoint, to be able to walk all these different halls and notice colours, trends, creativity, the way people had put products together, the things that they'd come up with, even if it's not in your niche, like, it's really inspiring, I find. I did struggle taking footage. I've promised in previous vlogs that I would take more footage at trade fairs for you to see. However, what I have found is a lot of brands aren't happy for you to do it, especially if they have new products out that they don't want copycats, like we just talked about, stealing those designs before they've had chance to really get them on the market. People are more and more conscious about trying to safeguard from that as much as possible for as long as possible. And people were quite suspicious about what footage might be for, even after explaining. But I understand where they're coming from. I get why everyone was on edge, especially with the Temu talk and all the talk around that. And so I tried to film some bits for you. I just love the colour, the creativity. Like, you go around a corner and you see something else you might never have pictured you would see there. Hannah Rendell Designs had a beaver that was bigger than me, for goodness sake. It was just the best thing ever. It also helped me find my way because I'm notorious for getting lost, but I knew where I was going from the beaver. It was a good landmark. And I just think being surrounded by other creative people, having chats with them about their products, it fuels your thoughts about what you do. And I think, unfortunately, people do use it as a way to not really get inspiration but to copy, and you're going to get people turn up at the show because it's free to attend, who are just going to come round, take pictures of stuff they like and then rip it off a bit. However, in the main, I think it's a great way to be inspired. Like, I might see a totally different business to mine, but maybe they've made a wire sculpture of an animal and the way it's in motion makes me think about how I could illustrate different poses of characters, or there's loads of different ways you can be inspired, whether it be colour palettes, types of products you've not considered before, storytelling, displays. I'm always looking at product displays, and I just love talking to people about what they create and why they create it, and feeling people's passion behind what they do. You can tell when people have got a real passion for what they do and they really believe in it, because you can feel the excitement about it and they want to show you and talk to you about it. So I tried to push myself out of my comfort zone and have a chat with some people, and in the main I find that people are super friendly, super helpful, and they're happy to share tips with you. Like, when people ask me things, I was happy to share. When I asked other people, they were like, oh, have you ever considered this? Do you know this person? Have you heard of this? And it's nice to help each other out. So the big question is, was it a success? And I think with trade shows, it takes time to measure it. And I think you need to decide what you want to get out of a trade show and know how you're going to measure it. So going right back round to what I said about brand recognition, or things being 50-50 between orders and like networking, you need to figure out what success looks like for you. Like, when people ask me, oh, you're having a good show, I always never quite know how to answer, because I think, am I? Would they think I'm having a good show if they knew what orders I'd taken or not taken? And I think you need to set that, and you need to be happy with it. You need to know what you want to get out of it for the money you have put in, and have reasonable, realistic expectations. And I have found that I always get more orders in the follow-up than at the show. So it's too early to tell, but from the orders I took at the show and the leads I got, I'm confident that they are going to come to more orders, and I'm happy with how we presented ourselves at the show and got our name out there a little bit more. In that way, I am chalking it up as a success. But for example, last year I took an order in September from somebody I met in the January, and they said they'd only just got around to it. So it can take time for these things to come together. I'm pleased with how it went, and I hope you've enjoyed coming along my little How Spring Fair Went This Year story and listening to a bit of our experience and what we learned. If you have any other questions or comments, I would love to hear them in the comments. And if you watch to the end of this video, could you put a sunshine emoji to represent my bright, colourful stand and let me know that you are here to the end? Because I appreciate I haven't been super consistent on YouTube since before Christmas, and I'm really determined to get back into it. I had another little gap because I tried to work with an editor who majorly let me down. So I appreciate you even more for sticking around to the end and coming along with me on this journey of trying to grow my small business and see where it goes, and sharing messages of kindness and positivity and self-love, which is what we're all about. So thank you so much. Please like and comment and subscribe and do all those lovely things. And until next week, take care. I'll see you then. Bye.